Yo, what's up, all you burner stones and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
I'm happy.
Hey, all you vipers out there in the world.
I'll
Hopefully
explain.
smoking some big fat joints while you're listening to the show. Mrs. Weedman and I are about to get normal with some juicy fruit given to us by our good friend Midwest Terps. ENT, thank you for throwing to the cause. Juicy fruit is named for its bouquet of fruity aromas. This near even balance of sativa indica tastes and smells very much like fruit punch and lemon. Some describe the flavors as closer to pina colada and plums. THC levels can reach up to 20%, providing for a powerful combination of head and body buzz. Juicy fruit contains about 1% CBD, meanwhile making it better than average choice for the patient who experiences seizures or other symptoms that respond to CBD. Breeders created the strain by crossing the original Afghan indica with pure Thai sativa, a process that resulted in a 55-45 sativa indica ratio. The high, which can be quite strong, is intensively euphoric, a mix of physical relaxation and cerebral mood. The dominant feeling is one of euphoria. Juicy fruit is a strong medical tool for patients dealing with anxiety, mood disorder, depression, lack of appetite, physical pain. Many users report dry mouth and red eyes, while other negative effects appear to be more limited. This medical favorite can be found up and down in the West Coast as well as Colorado, but also here in Illinois, grown by our friend Midwest Terps. It occasionally appears in the traditional market as well. Effects are creative, euphoria, happy, uplifting. ADD, ADHD, bipolar disorder, chronic pain, depression, fatigue, migraine, spasms, muscle spasms, nausea, and stress. Flavors are berry, citrus, fruity, lemon, pineapple, sweet, and tropical. And then the aromas are fruity, lemon, pineapple, and sweet. And this actually tastes and smells like juicy fruit. And the flavor lasts a lot longer. So thank you, Midwest Terps, for throwing to the cause. And also, don't forget to go to the Midwest Terps Instagram and check out the Midwest Terp Off. Also, Gems, it is Salt versus Organics. And this is the Midwest Terp Off on Sunday, June 22nd, 2025 from 3 to 9 p.m. And of course, Mr. and Mrs. Weedman will be there, plus so many other vendors and growers and breeders and lots of fun. So welcome to one of the kind Terpament, where Salt versus Organics go head to head and compete for the first and third place in each category. Joining will be certified ganjiers and cannabis speakers that will educate us on certification processes to become a certified ganjier. Join for the unique experience that is not only educating and the community, but also empowering all of us. Also, don't miss out on the special performances all the way from Ohio, showing Chicago some love on this epic event. And that is Salt versus Organics, the Midwest Terp Off, Sunday, June 22nd. We're super excited to go to that, Mrs. Wee, man. We haven't been in an event all month. I'm excited. I love events. I love rolling joints for people, especially if you come to our table and you sign up for our YouTube or our newsletter and you buy something, you get a joint and maybe a nug by Mr. and Mrs. Weedman. Oh, I went out. I was talking too long.
Oh, no, you're talking too much, Mr. Weedman. Hang on, I'll set you up there.
I need to get some of this juicy fruit in there.
Elevate.
I'll let you do the commercial for 8 decades, though. Go ahead, Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah.
Tell me about 8 decades.
You may not know, or you may, but either way, we have a product line called 8 Decades, spelled 8, E-I-G-H-T, decades.com. And on our website, you can find out all about us, what we do, like what our brand is about. You'll find links to the podcast and, of course, shopping. And if you sign up for our newsletter, you will get free shipping on your first order. And we've got lots of great products. We developed what we like to think of as your forever smoke set for flower users, and a really nice rolling tray. There's a flower multi-tool, and there's a wonderful ashtray, boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop, and multiple other items like hemp clothing and storage jars and grinders and things. So check us out. We also have Weedman 420 swag.
Yeah.
So check it out and get yourself some gear.
Yes. We had 2 people that just bought. One from Texas.
Yep.
And then from where was the other one from? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
If not, sorry, we'll catch you on the next one. But thank you for the 2 people that just placed orders and supported our brand. Because if you support us,
West Virginia.
Yeah. There we go. Mountain Mama. Take me home. You both got some trays and some rolling sets and some goodies coming your way. We appreciate West Virginia and Texas for the support. We love you because you supporting 8 decades. We get to keep on doing this show.
That's
so we
right.
appreciate you out there for supporting our brand and showing us some love. So, Ms. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
Today is a very, very, very and one more very special day.
It is.
Can you want to say why, and then I'll tell the story?
It is our 30th anniversary.
30th wedding anniversary. We did it.
We did it.
Yay.
We're over the hump.
Yeah, we're over the hump.
We're beyond that 7-year itch. We're beyond, all those different things that they say
we're
go
together
into
forever.
and out
There's no, unless one of us dies, that's the only way we're getting rid of one.
Yeah, you're not getting rid of me.
You're not getting rid of me.
All right.
So you're stuck with me for 30 years to deal with somebody like this guy. Woo, she got a lot of cojones.
Likewise. I'm no perfect human either.
Since it's our 30-year anniversary, I'm going to give you a story. A quick little story on how Mr. and Mrs. Weedman met. And just a little history about us. And
then maybe I'll correct the story.
Maybe, but my story's pretty legit.
I'll just have probably a few different things
changed
to
in
say.
30. We've been together 31 years.
It's the truth.
Right.
Right.
But it hasn't
you
changed.
Probably have a little
I throw a little flamboyance into it. A little pizzazz.
Spice.
Yes, because it was a very special night when we first met 31 years ago.
Okay.
And
just remember, everybody doesn't need to know everything.
I'm not giving them everything.
Okay.
I'm just giving them how we met.
Okay.
So, Mr. Weedman met Mrs. Weedman in Islamorada, Florida. I went down there on a weekend with some buddies of mine, and the weekend was called Bartender's Bash.
So if anyone doesn't know, Islamorada is 80 miles from Key West. It is the center of the Florida Keys.
Yes, and there's a place called Holiday Isle, and the world-famous Tiki Bar was there. Ginormous Tiki Bar. And the Tiki Bar had a place called Tiki in the Sky. Mm-hmm. And it was upstairs from the Tiki Bar. It was another Tiki area, but it was a bar, and it was places, and you're overlooking the water. So this was the last night. Mr. Weedman was there with some buddies, and we were pretty lit. Let's just say yes, whatever. I won't go into all the stuff that we were on and having fun, but we were having a lot of fun. And this is
you were seeing spaceships.
Oh yeah, I was seeing spaceships. This is a 3-day weekend where all the people in the bar industry, restaurant industry, bartenders, servers, waitresses, and then you have all the different liquor companies and beer companies down there.
It's like a South Florida thing.
Yes.
Right.
And it's all you have all the Jaeger and just all the big companies there giving away prizes. You had the hotel suites. It's just a big 3-day.
Bikini contest.
Yes. It's what t-shirt contest, everything. Hot male body It's just a 3-day weekend. It's
it was all girls.
It's a spring break for for people in the industry.
Yeah.
Just put it that way. Mrs. Weedman lived in the Keys in Islamorada and worked at a place called Blue Sky.
So I worked at the bikini shop at the resort, and we sold all of the contest bikinis. And there wasn't much more than thread and a couple little sequins where they needed to be. And that was about it.
So,
I mean, the Florida Keys are hot. You really don't.
You don't need much
clothing.
No, it's very in the summertime. It's up. So this is highlight packed, thousands of people there. Just last night, Mr. Weedman's partying, having a good time. We're in Tiki in the Sky. I'm sitting up on a rail. Behind me is the boats in the dock. You fall, you're falling in the water. So, and I'm sitting up on the rail with two of my buddies, and we're bullshitting, we're just drinking some beers, having a good time, drunk, and the stuff just started kicking in. And all of a sudden I'm listening to music, all of a sudden I turn at the bar, kind of standing on the bar stool a little bit, you were standing on the bar stool a little bit. Next thing I turn and I see these beautiful, wonderful sky blue eyes staring right at me, and we lock eyes. Yeah, basically. And all of a sudden, there's a scene from a movie, and I think it's from Wayne's World when he saw the woman playing on stage. And I look at Mrs. Weedman, all of a sudden just sparkles started coming down from the heavens, and the song came on. Dream Weaver, I can't make it to the night. And I am in total infatuation with these eyes, okay? And I mean, literally cannot take my eyes away from her eyes. And I nudged my buddy and I said, look at that chick over there. And yes, I did call you a chick. I said, look at that chick over there, man. He's like, dude, you need to go talk to her. And this happens now to be, he became my best man in my wedding. And
our daughter's godfather.
Yes. And he's like, you need to go talk to her. And I said, nope, I'm not going to go talk to her. Not yet.
Stubborn.
I'm not going to go talk to her yet. He goes,
stubborn.
He goes, we're going to go walk a little bit. Go talk to her. I said, no, I'll come with you. And so then I went with them, right? We walked around downstairs, listened to the band a little bit, got some more beers, smoked a little weed, and then we came back up to Tiki in the Sky. That spot that we were at earlier was open again. So we went and sat at that same rail. I turned, and there is the beautiful blue-eyed woman right at that same spot, looking right at me again. So then Mr. Weedman, my buddy, he goes, dude, will you just go talk to her? You guys have not stopped looking at each other now a second time.
Well, what he didn't know was that I saw him go downstairs and I was afraid that he was going to leave because I saw him across the bar and thought I didn't say it to anybody else because I'm a little bit more like low key. I didn't tell anybody, but I saw him and was like, I have to talk to this guy. So then when he was leaving, I said to my girlfriends, I'm like, I'll be right back. And so I went downstairs. The bathrooms were downstairs. So conveniently, I pretended to go to the bathroom, but I was just checking to make sure you were still around.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I saw you come back up and I was like, yes.
So we come back upstairs
Yes.
and he goes, go talk to her. I said, okay, watch this. Now, Mr. Weedman, trying to be Mr. Joe Cool over here, right? Points at Mrs. Weedman and says, come here, waving my finger, like, come towards me. And you're like, you come here. And I'm like, here, I'm thinking in my head, here we go. This is going to be good. And I said, no, you come here. And you're like, you come here. And then Mr. Weedman, of course, goes, let's meet halfway with both of my fingers coming together. And you're like, okay. But I was so nervous.
You were really more on my half.
I was on your half. I'll give you that. I was on your half. And we sat at a table in the middle of the Tiki in the Sky. But I brought my buddy with me because I was all of a sudden I started sweating. I was nervous. I'm like, oh, man. And he's like, you don't need me. I'm like, just come with me, please, for a minute. So all of a sudden, the three of us start talking, right? Great conversation. But you and I were like, just in dialed conversation. All of a sudden he's like, I'm gonna go. I'm like, okay, you can go. Thanks for just walking me over here. Mr. Nervous Nelly over here, really, right? I'm like, just okay, great, thanks, brother, appreciate the support. So he walks away, and you and I sat at Tiki in the Sky for about an hour, as I remember, and we talked and then we went for a walk around to the pool area and walked around the circle and talked more, and then we were thirsty and we found all of our all the guys who I came down. It was like 10 of us that went down at the bar downstairs listening to the band. So you and I went down there, we're all hanging out together, and then we go to a bar called Woody's where a band called Big Dick and the Extenders played. If anybody's ever been to Island Rod, I've been to Woody's. Give me a shout out. Big Dick, rest in power. He's a 6'5" Indian Native American that can sing amazingly and play the bass.
He made his bass look like a toy, but he was so good.
So we went there, partied, had a great time, and then you're like, the night's over. Bar closed at 5 a.m, and you're like, you want to come back to my house? And I'm like, I got all these guys with me though. You're like, bring them with. I'm like, you sure? Yeah. You're like, yeah, bring them with. So a couple of the guys grabbed some girls they were rapping with, and we all go back to your place. And her family owned it was her family home on the water in Islamorada, Florida. So it's 10 guys, you and one or two more girls.
Yeah, talk about naivety, right? I'm like 21 and I invite a group of unknowns.
And these guys are not small
unknowns who
guys.
are under the influence of all sorts of things. Come on back to my house.
These guys are all bodybuilders, bouncers, bartenders, jacked to
like
all
dudes.
I mean, guys that played like professional football, college. I mean, these guys are all like 6'2" to 6'8", jacked. And so everybody's having a great time.
We're just sitting on the porch. We watched the sunrise.
Right. You and I went down to your pier and we watched the sunrise. And then everybody left except for my buddy who I drove with and the girl that he picked up and you and I. And you and I sat and talked and hung out all night and all morning and had a great time. So we're ready to leave because my buddy and I had to go to work that night. We had to go work at the bar. I was a bouncer at the time. I was 21 and he was the head bouncer. And my buddy and I was ready to leave. I was not going to give you my phone number, or I just didn't even think about it, and we're saying goodbye. And all of a sudden him and I are walking out and he goes, "Hey, don't you guys want to exchange numbers?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah."
You dick.
It's like, "Oh yeah." We exchanged numbers.
Yeah. And
then I called you up that weekend. We talked like 2 or 3 straight days. And I said, "Hey, how about I come down and visit you for a couple of days?" And you're like, "All right, come on down." I get down. I literally left that morning. It was like 3 a.m. I just packed, threw a bunch of shit in a bag, got in my car. I was at your place at like 7:30 in the morning. Woke you up, dead sleep, woke you up.
This is pre-cell phones, right?
Yeah. So I wake you up, and went and had coffee. We sat in the pier and we bullshitted. You and I both smoked cigs at that time, and we were smoking cigs, having coffee, just talking. And I was supposed to go back to work on Wednesday, and this was now Wednesday night, and I'm like, all right, I'm not going to work. It's now like 8 o'clock, and it's a 4-hour drive to where I live. 3.5 hour drive, right? Mm-hmm. And so I said, it's now Thursday morning. I'm like, I really need to go back to work. Like, I could stay here right now and stay for like a month, but I need to go back to work. You're like, all right, call me when you get back. Let me know you're okay. I get to work that night. I get fired. Because I no called, no showed on Wednesday. I'm like, fuck it. So I go out and I party for like 2 straight days, had a blast. We talked, I think, a couple of times on the phone. I call you up. I'm like, hey, I lost my job. I got nothing to do. How about I come and see you again? She goes, and you go, don't worry, I found you one already. I'm like, what? Like, you're like, yeah, I got you a job at Woody's if you want it, bouncing. I'm like, all right, I'll be down this weekend. So now I'll tell me driving down, but you have to tell your story when I'm pulling up in the driveway. Yeah. All right, because this is classic. So all of a sudden I'm at home. I moved back in with my parents at the time because my lease was ended, and I was in between places to live, and I packed 2 bags and a fan, and I get my GeoPrism. My mom and dad like, you just moved back home like 3 months ago and you're already leaving. Where are you going?
Where are you going?
He said, I'm going to Islamorada, Florida, which my parents love. Islamorada, Florida. It was like one of their favorite places to visit or vacation at growing up as a kid. And they're like, what? I said, yeah, I met this girl. She's got a beautiful home on the ocean. Her family owns it. She's just staying there taking care of it. She told me to come down and hang out. I said, I lost my job. I got nothing going on right now. I'm just going to fucking go. I'll see you when I see you.
I'm like, what?
my 420 still shakes her head when I tell that story. She's like, I just can't believe he just spontaneously got for a girl. Yeah. Just got and went to the Keys. I couldn't believe. She still tells like I couldn't believe it. And Poppy, we call my dad Poppy, and Poppy just couldn't believe that you just got in the car and went. And the first thing out of his mouth is like, "Can we come visit?" Because they love Islamorada. And so we. All right, so I get to the driveway and I start pulling up, and you're on the upper deck patio. What do you see?
And I'm on the upper deck patio, like, whoa, this dude said he's just gonna come down here and live here. All right, we're gonna figure this out. But then he came down the driveway, and here he is with his little GeoPrism, which is like a Toyota Corolla,
basically
with crank windows, and hanging out the back window is like the feet of a pedestal fan. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like he has all of his worldly belongings packed into his car. I was like, what am I? Like just the reality hit. Like I met this guy like. We had a minute, and here we are. Yeah. We're going to live together.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've only known each other for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks. Yeah. Literally 3 weeks, everybody. Yeah. We met, came down for 4 days, talked on the phone, and I was down in 3 weeks.
Yeah. Moving in with me.
Yeah. We met
indefinitely.
We met on May 8th, and I think I moved down like the second week of June.
Yeah.
Or like the first week of June, I was living with you.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Then I asked you to marry me.
Yeah.
You did. You said yes.
And you purchased the ring from Big Dick.
Big Dick he had purchased a wedding ring for his daughter, and she wound up breaking the engagement, and he asked me, do you want to buy the ring? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't have this much money up front. He goes, just pay me $60 a week until you're done, or $60 every 2 weeks when you get paid. I'm like, seriously? He's like, yeah, it's $1,000 ring. Perfect. And at the time, at 21 years old, $1,000, I didn't even have $1,000 in my bank account.
Yeah.
And he did it right for me. And you actually have that first engagement ring on your. We made it into a pendant because then we got her a new engagement ring. That was my grandmother's. And so we. And then I asked you to marry me. And then
a minute later, I was like, oops, I'm pregnant. We're having a baby.
Yeah. And Mrs. Weedman wanted to have the baby, and I said yes too. And we had Paulie, who's been on the show, help start this show. And
he was at our wedding.
He was at our wedding. He was like, what, 3 months old?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 months old at our wedding. And it was a beautiful wedding. We had a nice little quaint. That's where we should actually go eat dinner.
We should.
We actually should go there and eat dinner.
We
What
had
was the
such
name
a
of the
nice
place?
wedding. Salvatore's.
Salvatore's in the upper north side of Chicago, over by Wrigley, right?
It was in Lincoln Park.
Lincoln Park. And
It is in Lincoln
Salvatore's.
Park.
Yeah. And we should go there for and
We went there with the kids.
For
it was
our
our
15th
15th anniversary.
yeah.
We were out Sunday family day, and we were down in the city, and we were in Lincoln Park, probably coming from the zoo or something. And I said, "Oh, let's go drive past Salvatore's, show the kids where we got married." We go down the street, and it's off of kind of a pretty busy intersection in Lincoln Park, and it's just like off the side street there, and by a few like storefronts. And so we were driving in, and the door is open. It's propped open with like a vacuum, like a shop vac. And there's somebody there, like vacuuming the sidewalk to put out the carpets, like to open the doors for the evening. And I'm like, hold on, I'm going to be right back. I park the car and I run up, and I'm like, could I just bring my family in? I said, my husband and I got married here 15 years ago. Can we just come inside? Can we show the kids the courtyard?
Yeah.
And guy goes, ooh, I'll be right back. And he brings out the owner.
Little Italian man.
Little old Italian man.
Great.
I come from a family of 5 girls. He had 4 daughters, or has 4 daughters. And they ran this as a family business. It's like a little boutique hotel with this beautiful lobby and courtyard. And so he comes to the door and meets us and brings us in, lets us walk around, talks to the kids. And next thing you know, he had a table set for us, a little 4-top with a white tablecloth. And he put one little flower on the table and a candle. And he brought a bottle of champagne and asked if he could serve the kids champagne too. And we had our 15th anniversary toast in the place where we got married. It was really cool.
It was very
really
special.
cool.
So, I mean, 30 years.
30 years. Who would have thought? I think most people didn't think we'd be here. Not like, because it was just so spontaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy
And we were both not like recklessly wild, but we were both a little wild.
We had our party.
Yeah.
We had our party in us.
I guess we had enough of it. Because when we met, we kind of locked in.
It was it. I
Yeah.
saw those eyes and I was smitten.
Oh.
So, Mrs. Weedman,
Mr. Weedman,
happy 30th.
happy
I
30th.
love you with all my heart and
Likewise.
soul. To the moon and back.
That's right.
Alice.
Always and forever.
Oh, yeah. All right. Enough mushy stuff.
Yeah, enough mushy stuff.
You ready to get the show started?
Let's do it.
All right. This is funny. On June 16th, a 21-pound lobster, estimated at 110 years old, was released back to sea by a New York seafood restaurant. Butch, owner of Peter's Clam Bar in Hempstead, Long Island, said the lobster named Lorenzo. Hey, oh, Lorenzo.
Because he could do that with his little
Yeah,
paws.
Lorenzo.
Hey, ya, cha-cha.
Has been living at the eatery for years. Lorenzo just kind of slipped through the cracks and ended up in our tank for years. He said freeing Lorenzo seemed like the appropriate way to celebrate National Lobsters Day on Father's Day. Some of these lobsters just don't live that long. This one did. So we figured, why not? It's Father's Day. Let's free Lorenzo.
He was a big boy.
Yeah, he became a pet.
Like a house cat.
People would come and see him and take pictures with him, and just like an object in the store or in the restaurant. So, Lorenzo, go live the rest of your life on a reef.
That's right.
And hopefully you get lucky. You find some females and give them those.
Find some lady
give
friends.
Give them those jeans.
Butch Yamali.
Oh,
Wow.
shit, Lorenzo, 110-year-old lobster. Jeez.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a wrinkle on him either. Still
He's
hard
crusty.
shelled. Oh, good weed, juicy fruit. Love you. Mwah. Thanks, Midwest Terps. All right. Marijuana users are nearly 5 times as likely to regularly exercise than eat fast food. Stereotype busting, the survey shows.
We've heard that many times.
We've been talking a lot about this in the last 6 years about like how, listen, I've been smoking weed for a very long time. We smoke weed every day, most of the time in the evening, but we smoke it during the day sometimes. We get up, we go to work, we do our shit, we take care of our shit. We work out every day. I work out 3 to 5 days a week for an hour. I eat clean. I have my cheat day on fucking Saturday. I do what I need to do to take care of this body because this body's my temple. And weed's a part of it because I have an endocannabinoid system, right?
That's right.
So this is totally different that we're hearing that we've been mistakenly been misrepresented you stoners, burners, and potheads out there for as long as we've been misrepresented and lied that we were lazy, that we didn't do anything, that we stayed in our parents' basement on the couch. Granted, listen, I'm a 52-year-old man. I would love to sit on my basement couch every day, smoke weed, watch anime, and play video games, because those are three of my favorite hobbies to do, and then play some disc golf. I would love to do that every day. But I got responsibilities. So check this out. A new national survey just busted wide open one of the oldest stoner stereotypes in the book. You know the one. Weed makes you lazy. All you do is crush chips and binge watch cartoons. Wrong. Turns out cannabis users are actually more than 5 times as likely to regularly exercise than eat fast food. 5 times, fam. That's a lot of burpees between bong rips. The survey from Real Estate Witch, backed by Pew data, shows that cannabis consumers are moving and grooving. We're taking gym time, talking gym time, hiking trails, bike rides, probably even yoga. Mrs Weedman loves her yoga, with a joint in a hand. You know that downward dog hits different with a little sativa, little juicy fruit in the system? And get this, everybody. Weed lovers are also less likely to overdo it, or less likely to overdo it on booze or junk food. So not only are we lifted in weed, lifted on weights, but we're also balanced, mindful, and fit as fucking hell. Rah-rah! Who knew weed pairs well with wellness? So next time someone hits you with the lazy stoner line, just smile, pass the joint, remind them, we're out here jogging, stretching, and crushing smoothies. What did you have for dinner tonight?
A smoothie. Hey.
Right after this dab.
That's about right.
Stay high, stay active, and keep flipping the script, fam. Let's keep rolling.
I would say my most... Oh, did I interrupt the end of
No.
your... Okay.
I was actually going to turn it over to you.
While you were reading that, I was thinking that a majority of the time when I'm stoned, I am not sitting around.
You're moving and grooving.
I just go. Like,
Right.
Yeah, it makes me want to dance. It wants me like move around and go.
Yeah.
There's strains, obviously.
Well, here, I'll give you a perfect
make
example.
You more slumpy.
I'm going to give you a perfect example about a strain. We've smoked so many indicas on this show, right? And Mrs. Weedman has made fun of me after shows going, man, we were fucking and Igneous, our friend Igneous, has
Slows
said,
us
he said,
down,
my God,
and
I know when you smoke certain sativas because all of a sudden your voice goes, and we laugh about it. But we're on a sativa right now. And I am like,
Fuego.
right. So it just depends on the strain. And this is a great strain because if it's around that 20%, which I love, I have no anxiety, no paranoia. I'm a little jacked. I can go run some laps right now. Let's go clean the house.
You feel like ready to go.
Right. Kind of thing. So talking about certain strains, if you notice in all of our 262 episodes, you will know when we're on an indica and you know when Mr. Weedman's on a sativa.
Yeah, if you're new to listening to our show, the purpose of smoking at the beginning of the show and talking about what we're smoking is so then you can see it all kind of play out.
Right.
And we might both have different responses to the strain. And but I do notice, like, if you're kind of slurry or slowing down with your speech, that kind of stuff we tend to have the similar reaction to. But there's definitely different strains where we're like, blah, 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 blah,
like
and
right
then,
now.
Yeah, or we're like wonky and slow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like last week, I'm like, that's not a good show weed because we were talking like turtles.
And it wasn't more of a uplifting sativa.
Yeah.
But
it just, with our speech, it just slowed our speech.
Everett, because we didn't really have much description, E from Midwest Terps did send me what that strain was about. And the lake effect is an evenly balanced strain 50-50. So that's why we were so up at first.
Both.
And it said in that strain, it will make you come down to a body high eventually. It was created through the iconic Chimera and Truffalola strains. On the one that I read about it was from a different website. I didn't have all the information about it. So, and we'll smoke it again. I'll tell you what it's more about. But just so you know, you can tell the different strains that we're maybe not know the strain, but you could tell what those strains, the effects are when we're smoking.
Yeah, and you'll see like some shows we get more like feisty, and some shows we're more chill, and we don't have a lot to say.
Right.
And it
just
and so you
depends on
get
the
to see
strain.
how that strain works
And
out.
you might want that strain.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why we
Definitely.
we're not. I don't rate. I'm not a strain rate. I don't do that. We smoke our strain. We tell you about it because we want to make sure that strain might be right for you, or you might want to try it to see if it's right for you. I'm not here to. I never bust anybody's weed. Everybody has their heart and soul in their grow, whether it's a big MSO or a home grower, and everybody in between. Your weed's your weed. You take pride in it.
More particular about what we consume, but that's our preference.
Right.
That's just our preference.
But just know that when we're smoking during the show, it's to also help you understand that strain and what it does to us. So hopefully it does help. Ms. Weedman, why cannabis industry must adopt standardized THC potency labeling?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Well, the cannabis industry has successfully captured the attention of early adopters, but long-term growth and mainstream acceptance require a strategic shift toward engaging the early majority. To achieve this, the industry must reevaluate how cannabis is marketed, how consumers are educated, and how product choices are communicated. For many consumers, alcohol is a familiar and well-understood substance. They know its effects, how to dose it, and how to integrate it into social and personal settings. Cannabis, however, remains an unfamiliar landscape for many, leading to hesitation or avoidance. To build a mental bridge between alcohol and cannabis, brands must frame it in terms that resonate with liquor consumers, helping them translate their existing knowledge into their cannabis experience. Strain names alone don't resonate with new consumers. While connoisseurs might seek out Purple Kush or Sour Diesel, the average consumer is looking for solutions to specific needs, such as relaxation, sleep aids, stress relief, or creative stimulation. A more intuitive classification system based on effects, potency, and cannabinoid ratios can make weed more accessible to the masses. Clear cannabinoid labeling in simple, consumer-friendly language builds confidence. Instead of overwhelming customers with complex percentages and terminology, brands should focus on providing enough scientific information to facilitate informed decisions without creating unnecessary confusion. Ambiguity is not a good sales strategy. One of the biggest barriers for potential cannabis consumers is their fear of overconsumption, often stemming from negative experiences. Unlike alcohol, which uses ABV or alcohol by volume to help consumers gauge intake, weed lacks a universal potency communication system. A potential solution is a tiered THC potency classification, similar to alcohol's ABV system. By stating the dosage clearly, such as noting that a 23% THC 1 gram pre-roll contains 230 milligrams total of THC. I think that's a big miss. Like if you're buying a pre-roll joint, do you smoke one hit of it or do you smoke the whole thing? Right?
Depends on the person.
But I'm saying this is for new consumers.
Yep.
They don't know that, and it doesn't tell you.
Right.
Right? It's a joint. It's 23%. Who's going to sit around and do this math, right? So brands can help consumers avoid making complex conversions. Standardized potency labeling would also help individuals regulate their intake responsibly based on desired experiences and tolerance levels. The alcohol industry has long benefited from a standardized approach to serving size awareness. While overconsumption still occurs, ABV and serving size guidelines provide a framework for responsible drinking. When consumers understand their intake, they are more likely to feel comfortable integrating weed into their lifestyle, leading to greater mainstream acceptance. The craft and premium beverage movement in beer, spirits, and coffee from the 1980s to the 2000s offers valuable insight for cannabis. Craft beer challenged mass market lagers by emphasizing quality, small batch production, and unique flavors. Cannabis brands can apply this by highlighting terpene profiles, cannabinoid balance, and artisanal cultivation methods. The rise of high-end small batch spirits demonstrated how this drives consumer interest, and cannabis brands can replicate it by offering limited edition products and specialty strains. There's a strong case for microdosing too, and wellness-focused language to attract health-conscious consumers. To move beyond early adopters, the cannabis industry must eliminate barriers of complexity, confusion, and inconsistency in communication. A standardized potency framework would empower consumers to make informed choices, while wellness-oriented language will make cannabis more approachable. And craft and premiumization strategies would elevate marijuana into a trusted mainstream product. By focusing on clarity, quality, and consumer empowerment, cannabis has the potential to become a seamlessly integrated into your daily life as coffee, craft beer, and wellness supplements. However, that success hinges on making it welcoming. I am reading kind of funny right now. An easily understood experience for the next wave of informed consumers. It's like your brain has this like weird thing that happens when you're trying to read and you're stoned.
Sometimes
you forget what you're reading. Like you have a moment.
But
you
sometimes
space out.
your mouth is moving not as fast as your brain is keeping up.
And this weed is making me like really uppity.
Yeah.
So I'm breathing fast.
You need to go rebound.
So I was like losing my breath while I was reading.
You okay?
Yeah, it was like a workout for my brain.
There you go. Oh shit.
I think I'll smoke some more.
This pot compound is shaking up the cannabis scene. And we've talked about it before on the show, but just some more research is being done. So what up, my high-minded friends and stoners, burners, and potheads? Not THC, nah. We're talking about THCv. Mrs. Weedman loves her THCv. That funky little cannabinoid's been sliding under the radar, but it's starting to make some serious waves. Think of it like THC's younger, leaner cousin, who shows up at the party with energy, focus, and says, nah, I'm good on the munchies. Who's that sound like?
You. All the time. Come on.
So what exactly is THCv? It stands for tetrahydrocannabinol. Say that 5 times fast after a dab. It's a rare cannabinoid found in small amounts of certain strains like Durban Poison, Doug's Variant, and Pineapple Purps. And get this, it has a unique profile. In low dose, it might actually block the psychoactive effects of THC. But in higher doses, bam! It can deliver a short, sharp, almost buzzy high. Now here's the kicker. THCv is being studied for all sorts of cool potential benefits like appetite suppression. Yep, the anti-munchies. Improve focus, even helping with blood sugar control and bone growth. Yo, is this the cannabinoid for the 9 to 5 stoner athlete? Maybe. Of course, we're still waiting on more science, but folks are hyped. You'll even see THCv popping up in edibles and vapes now, marketed as the diet weed or skinny cannabinoid. So next time you're shopping at your local dispensary, keep an eye out for those THCv strains or edibles or vapes. And if you try it, let Mr. and Mrs. Weedman know if it kept you lifted and laser focused or just made you clean your whole kitchen. Stay curious, folks. Stay high. And as always, pass the knowledge with the joint fam. It's hot already. The whole East Coast is going to get whacked this week and all the way into the weekend. 100-degree weather already. We're not even in summer yet. Give me a sec. And we're hitting it. We're going to be in the high 80s, low 90s. Hot. It was hot today. It was like 88 and it was hot. That sun was hot. It was beautiful out, but it was hot.
But it was a hot day.
And but the whole from the Midwest all the way to the East Coast is getting whacked. And I am one to love to keep the windows open. But when it gets like this, it's very hard to. And at night, I have to sleep at a certain temperature, or else I can't sleep at all. It just, I have a fan that's always going, but still, if it's not a certain degree in our house to sleep, I'm tossing and turning all night long. It's just uncomfortable. So here's the thing. Mr. and Mrs. Weedman smoke a lot of weed at night to go to bed, and we take our gummy, like we've talked about many times in the show. It helps us sleep. It does. Can cannabis help sleep, though, on a hot summer night?
Yep.
Tell us about it.
When the summer heat rises, so does the difficulty of getting a good night's sleep. Hot, sticky nights can interfere with your body's ability to cool down, a process necessary for falling and staying asleep. Fortunately for many people, cannabis offers a natural way to relax and sleep more soundly, even during a heat wave. Cannabis has long been known for its sedative and relaxing properties, and research suggests it may be especially helpful for people struggling with insomnia, anxiety, or disrupted sleep patterns. Certain cannabinoids, particularly THC and CBN, have shown potential in helping users fall asleep faster and enjoy deeper sleep. Warm weather interferes with the body's natural sleep cycle. Your core temperature needs to drop slightly to trigger sleep. But when it's hot, this cooling process is delayed. I never knew that. As a result, you may toss and turn or wake up frequently throughout the night. According to a study published in the Journal of Clinical Pharmacology, THC was found to have helped individuals fall asleep more quickly and reduce...
Hold on. Hence why you've been having trouble sleeping at night. Because your body temperature is having trouble cooling right now.
Right.
Have you noticed that? Your sleeping patterns have gotten because of that. And cannabis, you said, has been helping you, but still your body still can't regulate to that cooler temperature.
Yeah, he's referring to hot flashes.
Yes, I am. We've talked about it on the show.
Fun times. THC was found to help individuals fall asleep more quickly and reduce the frequency of nighttime awakenings. I can 100% attest to that. For those tossing and turning on hot nights, this could offer much needed relief. Cannabis can also help regulate your sleep-wake cycle, known as the circadian rhythm. This internal clock is sensitive to external factors like light and temperature. When high summer temperatures throw your body off balance, cannabis may help reset that rhythm, especially when consumed about an hour before bedtime. Many users also report that cannabis helps reduce anxiety and restlessness, two major obstacles to sleep that are often amplified in uncomfortable heat. Strains high in myrcene, a naturally sedating terpene found in some cannabis varieties, are particularly effective. Indica-dominant strains, known for their full-body calming effects, are often recommended for nighttime use. Moreover, cannabis may improve REM sleep, the phase associated with dreaming and deep rest. A 2008 review published in Sleep suggests that cannabis can reduce REM sleep, potentially minimizing vivid dreams or nightmares that interrupt rest, while increasing time spent in restorative non-REM sleep. Of course, as with any sleep aid, moderation is key, because high doses of THC can sometimes cause grogginess the next day. It's best to start with a small amount and work with a healthcare provider. That's okay. Or a dispensary expert to find the right strain and dosage. On hot summer nights, when sleep feels impossible, cannabis offers a soothing, natural option to help you cool down, unwind, and drift into peaceful slumber. So, this summer, give it a try.
Yeah. Like I said, your body's got to cool down. And we just talked about this before we recorded the show about the temperature in our house. And you know, I never used to be cold. And the last 3 years, especially if we have the air conditioner on at a certain temperature, I gotta have a hoodie on. Cold, fucking cold. And I'm like you now. I'm like, I'm fucking cold.
Aww.
This sucks. But at night though, I know you always say let's turn the temperature up. I'm like, it's got to be like this temperature. And I know it because we didn't have the air on a couple nights ago, and it was like our house was like 78, and I was tossing and turning all night long. And I finally just got up and shut all the windows and turned the air on. And the next, an hour later, I was out cold. So just my temperature, I think, set at night. We've set this air conditioner at night. Now, last night, 74 degrees for me is like perfect. And I know some people are like, I keep my air conditioner at 68 degrees. I'm like, well, you're fucking crazy. You should go live in the Arctic.
Like we have the air off right now.
Yeah.
It was very hot out today, but we turn it off when we're recording so it doesn't kick in background noise. And I'm still cold.
I'm actually hot, but it is true on certain strains, certain stuff. Like you can toss on trend. It's not because of the weed. It's because my body is hot. You know, some strains make me on fire.
Your body is hot. Oh, well. Okay. If you say so.
The Journal of Pharmacy and Pharmacology about cannabis flower and its effect on anxiety. What's up, my good elevated fam right now? So get this. A brand new study out of the Journal of Pharmacy and Pharmacology just confirmed what we stoners have been saying for years. Cannabis flower helps reduce anxiety. Boom! Pass that grinder and let's break this one down. Researchers took a look at 32,000 sessions tracked by real cannabis users in the Relief app. You know that tool folks use to log their smoke sessions and how they make them feel? And fam, the results, straight gas. Didn't you do that one? Was that the one that you did? The Relief app? Did you do
No,
Relief
but I
app?
said I want to do it, and I just haven't done it.
So straight gas, like the joint we just smoked, Mrs. Weedman and I have been smoking on. People reported that anxiety dropped by a solid 4.5 points on average after consuming cannabis flower. That's not a little shift. That's a, yo, I went from stressing to zen in one puff.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where it gets even better. It didn't matter whether they were hitting indicas or sativas or hybrids. The relief was real across the board. Most folks smoked it. A few vaped. But either way, flower came through like a hero in a hoodie. In my hoodie. See, I'm the hero in the hoodie.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we always say everyone's body's different, right? So what chills me out might not hit the same for you. But the studies show what we in culture already know, that sometimes the best therapist is green, sticky, and smells like sweet, skunky happiness. So next time the world's stressing, like right now, all what's going on right now in this fucking world, stressing you out, whether it's work life, politics, global threats, I just added that in, life, or the one relative who still calls it dope, just remember, nature's got your back. In bud, we trust, Mrs. Weedman.
In bud, we trust. That is so true. I trust it for sure.
Full spectrum cannabis oil combined with what? Omega-3 fish oil for neuropathic pain management, a novel therapeutic approach. This is new data. It's very short. Right, Mrs. Weedman came up to me. She goes, "There's not much to this article." I said, "Because it's new research. They got to do more." So it's quick and easy and painless. But Mrs. Weedman is going to tell you about it.
It's very promising.
Yes.
Current pharmacological treatments for neuropathic pain have limited efficacy and may cause undesirable effects. I can tell you 100% that that's accurate. Again, I have a lot of testimony for this plant and for medical conditions.
Especially the last 5 years.
Wow. Okay, back on track. Cannabidiol, or CBD, enriched cannabis oil, and omega-3 fatty acids have emerged as potential therapeutic options due to their analgesic and anti-inflammatory properties. This study aimed to assess the anti-nociceptive effects of combining CBD-enriched cannabis oils and omega-3 fatty acids in rat models of acute and neuropathic pain.
I gave you this article because it had really big words.
Oh, thanks.
And I didn't want to do it.
I don't know why you've determined that I can say these bigger words better than
You're
you
a hell of a lot smarter than I am, Mrs. Weedman. That's for damn sure.
Using the hot plate test for acute pain and the chronic constriction injury model for neuropathic pain, thermal and mechanical hypersensitivity were evaluated, along with other analysis. All right, so that doesn't make sense to most of us. The combined treatment of CBD-enriched cannabis oil and omega-3 fatty acids effectively prevented thermal and mechanical hypersensitivity, while also improving motor impairment-induced peripheral neuropathy. Finally, combination treatment showed a protective effect against degeneration. Wow. These findings underscore the potential of CBD-enriched cannabis oil and omega-3 fatty acids as a novel therapeutic approach for neuropathic pain management, offering promising implications for future research and clinical practice.
Practice makes perfect.
That's right.
Political, state, and business news. Yo, so down in South Carolina, Mr. Weedman, hemp farmers are saying, nah, we're good, and bouncing from the crop. What started with high hopes turned into low profits thanks to oversupply, weak prices, and too much red tape. One farmer called it a heartbreaker. And we're talking about hemp, of course. Damn. Sounds like Hemp X is the Department of Ag. Tough scene, fam. Let's hope reform rolls in before more growers ghost the green. Stay lifted, not restricted in South Carolina. South Carolina also might finally be catching the green wave. GOP Governor Henry McMaster just said there's a compelling case for medical marijuana. Yeah, you heard it right. But the House Speaker still stuck in reefer madness, talking slippery slopes. Come on, man. Patients need relief, not political paranoia. Let's get with the times, Carolina. Weed's medicine, not the boogeyman. Keep pushing, keep puffing, and let's turn that maybe into a mellow yellow yes. Minnesota's cleaning up the cannabis game. Lawmakers just passed a bill to tighten up marijuana regs. Think licensing tweaks, business oversight, and clearing the air on who's running what. It's like spring cleaning, but with more terps. The state's Office of Cannabis Management is still getting its legs, but the move's meant to keep things smooth, safe, and legit. They're also going to have some high taxes, though, everybody. And when I say high, I mean HIGH, high taxes. The chief revenue raiser in the 2020-25, you like that, 2020-2025 tax agreement passed by the House is a plan to increase the state's 10% cannabis gross receipt tax to 15%. Repeal local government cannabis aid, according to the Revenue Department. That change could enhance the state's coffers by $76.5 million in the next biennium. Let's just hope.
Is that for real?
Yeah.
Biennium?
Let's just hope the bureaucracy doesn't kill the buzz. You dig, Mrs. Weedman?
I dig.
Tim Walsh, who is so proactive right now in getting cannabis legalized to let this happen, to make one of the highest taxes in the country. Also, I'd like to shout out Minnesota for the 2 lawmakers that were killed. Praying for you and your families. God bless. Check this out. Trump's proposed federal budget cuts might accidentally help cannabis reform. Yep. Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton says states losing federal cash can turn to legal weed for that sweet tax revenue. Cha-ching. Funny how the munchies ain't the only thing weed feeds. Turns out it could fill budget gaps too. Legalization might just roll in on a wave of dollars, not just good vibes. Puff, tax, and pass, baby. Senator Elizabeth Warren just lit up Trump's index box telling him to end federal marijuana criminalization. She's like, hey, Trump, you want to save money? Stop locking folks up for the plant. Preach it, Liz. Legal weed saves cash and lives. Let's replace handcuffs with high times. Is she right? Is she right?
She's right.
She's right. Go, Liz, go. Big news from the political puff cloud. Trump just told House lawmakers that marijuana rescheduling is happening soon. Like soon. Now, we ain't holding our breath, but maybe, just maybe, 420's filthy finally hitting the White House vibe check. Could this be the year weed goes from Schedule 1 to legal and chill? Only time and politics will tell. But hey, at least they're talking weed instead of war for once. Actually, no. They're actually talking war again, unfortunately. So as of today, I won't get into it right now. I have a little speech I'm going to talk about a little bit at the end of the show. So check this out. A fentanyl crackdown bill just hit Trump's desk, but here's the twist. It also makes it easier to study marijuana. Congressman Blumauer says it's a small but mighty win for cannabis research. Finally, Uncle Sam's loosening the lab coat so we can get real data on this magical plant. Science meets sensibilia, baby. One step closer to facts over fear. Don't you remember what fear stands for, Mrs. Weedman?
False evidence appearing real.
Fuck yeah.
Boom.
Wow. Bam. I'll give you the fucking explosion on that one. You've heard me say that how many times? A lot. And you remembered it. Gosh, she might not be the best for movie lines, but she can remember positivity lines. And I love it, Mrs. Weedman. Thank you. Let's hear for progressive wrapped in policy or progress. Yo, fam, real talk. Legal weed's booming, but black and brown communities still getting the short end of the joint. A new report says big cannabis promised equity, but delivered crumbs. Folks who took a hit in the war on drugs are being locked out of the green rush, and also, I'm throwing this in, still being locked up. Mm-hmm. Come on now. We need real justice, ownership, opportunity, reparations in the industry. Folks, help build. No more smoke and mirrors, just equity and elevation. 250,000 Texans voted to decriminalize marijuana, but politicians, they're still playing hard to get, trying to override the people's choice. The people! Oh, sorry, Yuki.
She's going to make the dog nuts. She goes nuts when he says that.
Sounds like someone forgot whose side they're on. The people have spoken, but the political dance continues. Maybe they just don't want us smoking and chilling without a fight. Stay woke, Texas. Your vote's the real fire. Keep pushing, keep toking, and don't let them kill your buzz. Texas is lighting up with drama, though. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick just pushed a THC ban through the Senate, calling it a life-saving move. But hold up. GOP allies are pushing back, saying it's overreach and it could fuel the black market. Even conservative voices like Dana Losich are calling it stupid. Looks like the Lone Star State's cannabis showdown just went full throttle. Stay tuned, fam. It's getting hot down in Texas right now. And also, Abbott still hasn't signed the bill. But he did sign. This is what kills me. And good for Texas on this. I'm not, listen, I'm all about mushrooms. I'm all about psilocybin. I'm all about psychedelics and therapy. But Abbott just signed a bill in Texas, $100 million for psychedelic psilocybin research.
And that's far less researched, period, than marijuana. Far less data and information that's out there. But they just want to keep tying down cannabis.
When I read that yesterday, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? $100 million.
That's insane.
Not $1 million.
Right.
There's a couple zeros in there.
Yeah.
I'm just a little lost at words. Texas is heating up, though. Like I said, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is pushing a full THC ban and outlawing Delta 8 and Delta 9 products by September. But hold up. Medical marijuana companies are flexing their political muscle, hiring top GOP lobbyists to back the ban and protect the turf. Meanwhile, the hemp industry is like, not so fast. With grassroots support and over 135,000 signatures to keep the green scene alive. Stay tuned, fam. This one's still ablaze in the battle. This is going to get down and dirty with all the drama. Now over to you, Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah, I've got political, state, and business news. Mrs. Weedman over here. Mr. Weedman let me know that in my notes, in case you're wondering who I am. Memorial Day. Beer sales flatlined. You get that? America. Beer sales flatlined. Heineken, Bud Light, Corona, all took hits.
And it's funny because Heineken and Corona aren't American beer, and it still took a hit on Memorial Day.
Because that's a majority of their consumers.
Yep.
Meanwhile, cannabis might have swooped in, with consumers shifting to green instead of grain. Canada has seen the same trend. And 36% of cannabis users say they're drinking less. I know I am. Never drink a lot, but more and more, I'm drinking less and less.
You can't even finish a beer anymore.
I'm a wimp. Yeah. Well, it sounds like beer's losing its bud to weed vibes. Cheers to evolving tastes. For many, it's now puff puff pass the piece, not the pint. Congress is eyeing a federal ban on all hemp-derived THC products. Yes, Delta 8, THC flower, the whole kit and caboodle. They're calling it closing a loophole from the 2018 Farm Bill. But industry groups and even booze lobbyists are screaming, whoa, wait a minute, that's too far. With subcommittee approval already in the bag, this fight's going to get real congressional real soon. So buckle up, buds. Let's hope for wins in the favor of weed. Hawaii Governor Josh Green just dropped a veto bomb. One of the bills nixed would have let primary care doctors recommend medical cannabis. He says it went too far with warrantless patient record inspections. Now patients might feel like Hawaii's giving them the cold shoulder. Come on, Aloha Spirit. Don't ghost the green. So stay tuned, folks. This one's still in the legislative pipeline. Florida lawmakers are pushing a bill to strip medical marijuana cards from people convicted of cannabis and other drug crimes. Are you freaking kidding me? Even minor offenses like buying weed. 10 grams. Whoa. You can't have legal weed. What the fuck? Critics say this punishes, yes it does, patients and drives folks back to underground shopping. Yes it does. Come on, Florida, don't mess with the medicine. Keep those healing vibes alive, not locked up. Montana Governor Greg Gianforte just vetoed the so-called Cops and Conservation bill that would have steered adult-use cannabis tax cash toward law enforcement, conservation, addiction treatment, and homelessness support. He says it was a brazen raid on the general fund, asking for over $141 million in 4 years. Critics argue it undercuts other services that matter. Well, why don't these services matter? So stay tuned. Montana's fight over green should be interesting. A new poll shows that most sports fans in legal cannabis states are cool with cannabis branding sponsoring NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, NASCAR even, you name it. Over half say it is completely or mostly acceptable for CBD and THC sponsors, and only 17% can name one. So obviously there's room to grow. Sports and weed? That's a real MVP level normalization. So pass the joint, not just the ball. New Jersey's Senate Judiciary Committee just gave the green light, 11-0, to let existing medical dispensaries open 2 satellite spots each and 3 total locations. That's amazing. That's really cool. That means more places for patients to hit up without long drives. So that it sounds like you're just opening a satellite place where you would just deliver product. You don't have to go through all the rigmarole of like a whole new license. It's just you've got extra places for that might be more remote, more rural, which is great for the patients. Supporters say
for the people.
Supporters
I can't yell
say
because Yuki would go crazy.
It levels the playing field, while MSOs might not be thrilled. Too bad. Expansion's coming, Jersey, so get ready and see that green love spread. Maine won't require medical cannabis to be tested. Go figure for contaminants this year. That's a good thing to cut out of the rules. No mold.
They don't even have it in the rules.
No pesticides, heavy metals, nada. While, wait though, their recreational flower gets full lab treatment. Okay, come on. Lawmakers tabled the bill and will revisit it next year. Maine's now the only state without medical cannabis testing, raising safety concerns. Come on, Maine. Patients deserve clean bud, not guesswork. So, hoping the next session steps it up for patient peace of mind. Oh, and then we've got some wild courtroom drama out of Queens. A public defender got busted sneaking over 130 THC-soaked pages to an inmate at Rikers during a visit. It was caught by a canine sniffer. Go dog. That lawyer now faces a felony and up to 7 years behind bars. Meanwhile, the firm's founder is under federal fraud investigation. Sounds like a great agency there. Legal aid or contraband courier. This one's really sticky icky. And another wild one out of Queens.
This one's crazy too.
Yeah. Terp Bros dispensary tried to sneak a forged letter with the fire department of New York chaplain's signature to get support for a new dispensary. That's just plain old shady. I mean, you don't mess with the church.
What's my favorite episode? Suits, Schemers, and Scandals.
Yeah, right.
This
That's
is
a scandal. The New York Fire Department, or FDNY, says they've got no stance, and the Office of Cannabis Management is now staring it down. Sketchy move or savvy PR? You might need to go to the confessional booth if you ask me on this one.
Back to me. Big news from Pennsylvania. A city district criminalized marijuana for adults. That means no more criminal charges for small amounts. Just slap on the wrist. It's a win for personal freedom, a step towards smarter cannabis laws. But don't get too comfy. Statewide legalization is still on the horizon. Stay tuned, stay informed, and keep those vibes high, Pennsylvania. Ohio's got a hemp headache. Lawmakers are being urged to close the loophole I call it business development, allowing intoxicating hemp products like gas station weed and synthetic cannabinoids to flood the market. Experts say these unregulated products are dodging safety standards and misleading consumers. The fix? Limit sales to licensed dispensaries with age checks, lab testing, and proper labeling. Let's keep it clean, Ohio. No more gas station ganja. Also, there's a big thing right now going, gas station heroin.
What?
Yeah, it's like
For real?
Yeah, I got to read more about it, but I just saw like some articles about it. I just didn't get too deep into it because I
That's
don't.
scary.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
going to get into kids' hands.
I know. That's what they're saying about the gas station weed. You don't want
That's the cartel trying to find new business. That's business development.
Yeah, there you go. Not
Terrible.
the right. Terrible business development. Las Vegas casinos are holding their chips close. No cannabis allowed, despite weed being legal in Nevada. Casinos can't risk it due to federal laws. We talked about this in a prior episode too, about people wanting it to be in casinos. Even with lounges popping up, the big players aren't budging. But hey, the Lexi Hotel's got cannabis-friendly vibe, so there's hope for the future. Let's keep high hopes rolling, but for now, it's all about the slots and not the joints. Meh. Big changes coming to Alabama. Roll Tide. Starting July 1st, all smokable hemp products, think joints, vapes, and buds, are officially banned. But it's not just the smoke that's getting snuffed out. Edibles and tinctures are now capped at 10 milligrams THC per serving and 40 milligrams per container. Plus a 10% excise tax will be rolling in. Online sales, delivery, and drive-thrus all off the table. Retailers and consumers, brace yourselves. Alabama's hemp scene is about to get a major makeover. And not the kind you want to look good at. Big news. I don't know if it's that big, but it's big news on the social media world. Facebook and Instagram have finally stopped censoring searches for marijuana and cannabis. I don't have those anymore. Have you noticed it?
No. But I don't spend a lot of time on there anymore.
Gotcha. Meta rolled back the restrictions after facing backlash for blocking access to educational content and advocacy pages. Now, when you search those terms, you actually get results instead of warning to report drug sales. And a small win for the green community, but hey, we'll take it. I'm not buying it. I'm just reading the news to you. I still don't buy it because I still know people that are losing their accounts that don't sell weed. So, yeah. Regenerative cannabis farming is making a comeback in California's Emerald Triangle. Growers like Swami Chitani and Swami Select are reviving ancient practices to restore the land and cultivate a deeper connection with the environment. It's not just about the plant. It's about the philosophy and spirituality behind it. As Chantianius, can't even pronounce that name, says, if you're buying organic bananas at the health food store, why wouldn't you want organic smoke in your lungs? Missouri's cannabis market is on fuego. May 2025 saw a record-breaking 132.81 million in sales, with daily averages hitting 4.28 million. That's a 7.41 increase from last year, and a solid step towards suppressing last year's 1.46 billion total. The Show Me State is showing out, folks. With every month outpacing 2024, Missouri's proving it's a heavyweight in the cannabis game. Hell yeah, they are. Man, you do over $1 billion, you're a fucking heavyweight. That's some big money. Big moves in the hemp world. State attorneys general just gathered to tackle the rise of intoxicating hemp products. From gummies to vapes, these unregulated items are flooding the market, raising concerns over safety and access for minors. States like Oregon, Florida, California, and Nevada are stepping up with new laws, as you just heard me read a couple other states, to keep the things in check. It's a wild west out there, but the sheriffs are on the case. Wisconsin's governor, Tony Evers, is ready to roll. If Democrats take control of the legislature, he's pushing to legalize marijuana. Why? Because Wisconsin spent over $121 million on cannabis in Illinois last year. Thanks, Wisconsin. Sending tax dollars across the state lines. That's a whole lot of cheese, Wisconsin. And you got good cheese up there. Evers estimates legalization could generate nearly $170 million annually in state revenue. It's time to bring the green back home, folks. Oh, I'll take a hit of that.
There you go.
Thank you. We love Reginald Reefer. He writes some really good articles, doesn't he, Mrs. Weedman?
He drives a point, and he drives it well. So I like reading his articles.
So what's the greatest loophole in drug law history? Why politicians want to recriminalize what the people actually want. The people.
Yeah. So we've talked about the loophole, which is the hemp-derived THC market. that falls under the 2018 Farm Bill. I know that a lot of you understand this already, but there's some people listening who may not. So we present perspectives and studies and research to help you guys cut to the chase and get to know what's going on in the news of cannabis.
What's my line? We learn to help others learn. Right.
So we're trying to expedite the knowledge or expedite the available information and bring it to you in one place. And so we present other different people's perspectives on the same subject so you can hear more and more about things. So we keep talking about this loophole. Last week, I read an article that said it's not a loophole. Right. It's the law because it is. THC is written into the 2018 Farm Bill.
Right.
It just can't be over 0.3% from the hemp plant. Anyway, this is another perspective on that being a loophole. Some people consider it a gray area or a business development area. And that is just saying that, like, it's not a law, but it's not a law.
Right. And as we've been reading about all these states now banning
THC
from hemp and all the cannabinoids from hemp,
right,
except for CBD. We just mentioned a ton of states either banning it now, the government wants to ban it again. The federal government does so much. So the more we can talk about it, and stay informed about it and help you stay informed about it, you know what's going on in your state and you know what's going on in the federal side of things.
Because it's confusing.
Yes.
Dispensaries are selling cannabis, the same plant that hemp products and head shops and drugstores and health food stores, all of those CBD and THC products you find in those places that aren't coming from a legal dispensary, but it's a business that you're buying it from, a walk-in store or online. Those are coming from hemp-derived THC, and they're creating it in concentrations so that you can get high from it. Even though the plant is producing a very low percentage of THC, it has THC. So they're extracting it and they're creating products for you that you can buy elsewhere outside of a dispensary. The dispensary businesses don't want that to happen. But then the people are saying, maybe I live in a state where I can't get weed otherwise. This is giving me weed without having to go to the black market. Then there's the whole debate of, is it safe? Nobody's testing it. There's no mandates. There's no governances. So there's a lot of perspectives. It's a hot mess. And it's just because of how the government is making this all happen. And they're not taking control of it and releasing the laws and decriminalizing it and taking it off the schedule and just make the flower legal, right? That's the big picture of what we all want. And these problems wouldn't be problems, right? Create uniform, consistent measures for the country. So anyway, back to this. This is another perspective on the hemp-derived THC being a loophole, okay? So, this weed really makes me speed up. So the loophole that exposed America's cannabis hypocrisy, why politicians want to recriminalize what people actually want. When a loophole accidentally creates a multi-billion-dollar industry overnight, maybe it's time to admit it wasn't really a loophole. It was the will of the people finally finding expression despite decades of political obstruction. The 2018 Farm Bill's hemp legalization unleashed something politicians never saw coming. Proof that Americans desperately want legal access to cannabis products, even if they have to get them through creative chemistry and regulatory gaps. Now, predictability. Those same politicians are scrambling to stuff the genie back in the bottle. Representative Andy Harris from Maryland recently shepherded through a House subcommittee a bill that would eliminate any quantifiable amount of THC from hemp products, effectively destroying an industry that employs hundreds of thousands of Americans and serves millions of consumers who can't access legal cannabis in their states. The irony is palatable. Politicians who claim to support free markets and limited government are rushing to recriminalize products that sprouted from their own legislation, generated billions in economic activity, and provided legal alternatives to dangerous pharmaceuticals.
Pow.
They're about to hand a thriving legal industry back to the drug cartels while claiming to protect public safety. Bullshit. Here's what Representative Harris and his prohibition-minded colleagues refuse to acknowledge. When consumers enthusiastically embrace products derived from a legal loophole, that's not a regulatory failure. It's democracy in action. The hemp-derived THC industry didn't emerge because clever chemists fooled regulators. It emerged because prohibition has never reflected public demand for cannabis access. As the Mexican cannabis market crashes, with wholesale prices dropping from hundreds of dollars per kilo to under $90, these politicians want to reverse course and re-empower the criminal organizations that American drug policy spent decades enriching. It's political malpractice disguised as child protection, and it's time for cannabis advocates to call it what it is, a direct assault on the people's will. The 2018 Farm Bill's hemp legalization seemed straightforward enough. Allow cultivation and the sale of cannabis plants containing less than 0.3% Delta-9 THC by dry weight. Politicians thought they were legalizing rope and protein powder while keeping the dangerous, intoxicating compounds safely prohibited.
Rope and protein powder. It's so good.
What they actually did, I'm glad you caught that. What they did, that was kind of a little Ted Lasso.
Oh, I loved it.
Humor, right?
We'll talk about Ted Lasso
Yeah,
in the next
yeah,
episode. We're
right?
deep.
Where
right
I
now.
just don't pause for you to catch that there's humor there, but you caught it. What they actually did was create the largest cannabis legalization experiment in American history. Enterprising chemists quickly discovered that hemp plants contain other cannabinoids, Delta-8 THC, THCO, HHC, and dozens more, and they weren't explicitly prohibited from the Farm Bill's language. More importantly, they developed processes to convert legal CBD into these alternative cannabinoids, creating an entirely legal pathway to psychoactive cannabis products. The market response was explosive. Within 5 years, hemp-derived THC products generated an estimated $28 billion in annual sales across the United States alone. Gas stations, smoke shops, and dedicated retailers began selling everything from Delta-8 gummies to high-potency THC beverages. Millions of Americans gained legal access to cannabis products for the first time in their lives. But here's what prohibition apologists missed. This wasn't just about getting high. The hemp-derived market provided legal alternatives to expensive pharmaceuticals. It offered consistent products with known potencies. I put in quotes here, like, that's really up for dispute because there isn't testing and regulation, right? But let's move on.
You digress.
Yes. And it operated under existing business regulations with tax collection and employee protections. It proved that cannabis commerce could function safely within legal frameworks. The loophole also exposed the arbitrary nature of cannabis prohibition. If Delta-8 THC derived from hemp is legal, while chemically identical Delta-9 THC from marijuana remains federally prohibited, what scientific basis exists for any distinction between the two? The answer is none. Prohibition was always about politics and profits, not public health and not the plant. The hemp market thrives in states with the strictest cannabis prohibition. Texas, with its harsh marijuana penalties, became one of the largest hemp-derived THC markets in the country. Alabama residents could legally purchase Delta-8 products while facing arrest for traditional cannabis, making the contradictions impossible to ignore. Representative Harris now claims this situation represents dangerous products reaching consumers under the false guise of being USDA approved. That's a problem. But the real danger he fears isn't to the public health. It's to the prohibition regime that his political career depends on maintaining. The hemp market proved that cannabis commerce could operate safely, profitably, and legally, undermining every argument for continued criminalization. The industry that emerged from this loophole employs hundreds of thousands of Americans. It generates billions in tax revenue and sometimes provides safer alternatives to black market products. If this constitutes a regulatory failure, it's the most successful regulatory failure in modern policy history. The hemp-derived THC industry's rapid growth reveals something prohibition advocates desperately want to hide. Americans have always wanted legal access to cannabis, and they'll enthusiastically support any legal pathway to obtain it. Market forces don't lie. Consumers' demand drove this industry's expansion despite regulatory uncertainty and constant political threats. Consider the numbers. From virtually zero in 2018 to $28 billion annually by 2023, the hemp-derived market represents one of the fastest-growing industries in American history. This wasn't driven by deceptive marketing or corporate manipulation. It was organic consumer demand finally finding legal expression. Meanwhile, the illegal cannabis market has been collapsing in states with hemp access. Mexican cartels, who once dominated American cannabis distribution, have seen wholesale prices plummet from hundreds of dollars per kilo to under 90. The DEA's own intelligence reports acknowledge that legal cannabis markets have devastated cartel revenue streams. This market disruption represents exactly what drug policy reformers have predicted for decades. Legal alternatives eliminate illegal markets more effectively than any enforcement strategy. When consumers can purchase tested, labeled products from legitimate businesses, they abandon dangerous black market alternatives. But Rep. Harris and his allies want to reverse this progress. Their proposed legislation would eliminate virtually all hemp-derived THC products, forcing millions of consumers back to illegal sources or expensive pharmaceuticals. This isn't protecting public health. It's protecting criminal organizations and pharmaceutical profits at consumers' expense. The Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of America, in a rare moment of policy clarity, called Harris's approach troublesome and overly broad, noting it would undermine states across the country who have enacted critical regulations. Even alcohol industry lobbyists recognize that prohibition doesn't work, and regulation is the superior approach. Aaron Smith, CEO of the National Cannabis Industry Association, captured this absurdity perfectly, saying, "Despite legislators' intent, this budget provision won't change the fact that hemp-derived THC products are widely available. But it will ensure that these products are made and sold without oversight, delivering a big win to the drug cartels at the expense of public health and safety." The hemp industry has already proven that cannabis commerce can operate within legal frameworks. The businesses will pay taxes, they employ workers, they follow safety regulations, and they serve adult consumers responsibly. Harris wants to criminalize this success while pretending it will somehow improve public safety. Harris's hemp ban represents the single largest gift to drug cartels since the original Marijuana Tax Act of 1937.
Harry Asslinger.
By eliminating legal alternatives, politicians are about to hand a multi-billion-dollar market back to criminal organizations. The hypocrisy is maddening. Consumers won't simply stop using cannabis products. They'll return to unregulated sources that don't check IDs, pay taxes, or follow any safety standards. The timing couldn't be worse for public safety. Chinese synthetic drug operations have increasingly moved into cannabinoid production, manufacturing dangerous compounds like K2 and synthetic THC analogs. Harris's ban will create massive demand for these unregulated alternatives as consumers lose access to safer hemp-derived products. Street dealers don't card customers or limit sales to adults. They don't test products for contaminants or provide accurate labeling. They don't follow advertising restrictions or avoid targeting children. Yet Harris's legislation will force millions of consumers back to these dangerous sources while claiming to protect the youth. The enforcement costs alone should horrify fiscal conservatives. Rather than collecting taxes from legitimate businesses, law enforcement will spend millions arresting and prosecuting hemp product
We
distributors.
spent over $1 trillion on the war on drugs. $1 trillion.
But now on hemp product distributors too. Yeah. Courts will clog with nonviolent cannabis cases, while violent criminals receive less attention. International cartels are already preparing for America's policy reversal. Intelligence reports indicate that Mexican and Chinese organizations are ramping up synthetic cannabinoid production in anticipation of renewed prohibition. Harris's legislation won't eliminate demand. It will ensure that criminals capture 100% of their market share. State-level taxation and regulation have generated hundreds of millions in revenue while reducing illegal market activity. Harris wants to eliminate this success and return to the failed prohibition model that enriched criminals for decades. This isn't policy reform, people. It's policy regression. Once federal prohibition returns, legitimate hemp businesses will immediately cease operations. Consumers will lose access to tested and regulated products, while cartels will celebrate their wins. The most damning aspect of Harris's hemp prohibition isn't its policy failure. It's the complete dismissal of democratic will. Polling consistently shows that 70% of Americans support cannabis legalization, yet politicians continue pursuing policies that contradict public preferences. The hemp industry's success represents democracy in action. It was consumer choice finally finding expression through legal channels. Harris's legislation ignores the public's preferences in favor of ideology and special interest pressure. If elected officials consistently pursue policies that contradict constituent preferences, what does representation even mean? Harris represents Maryland, where 70% of voters support cannabis legalization, yet he leads efforts to recriminalize cannabis products. This disconnect between public opinion and policy implementation has corrupted American drug policy for decades. Politicians pursue prohibition because pharmaceutical companies, law enforcement unions, and prison contractors provide campaign funding, not because voters demand continued criminalization. This has nothing to do with the voters. The hemp industry has proved that cannabis regulation works better than prohibition. Voters who support legalization should demand that their representatives implement policies reflecting their preferences, not the preferences of special interest groups, and politicians who ignore constituents should face electoral consequence. New leadership could and should emerge from the cannabis advocacy community itself. Candidates with direct experience in legal cannabis markets understand policy nuances better than career politicians who've never seriously examined prohibition's failures. Representative Harris's aim for hemp prohibition represents everything that's wrong with our American drug policy. Politicians ignore public preferences. They protect special interest over constituent welfare. And they double down on failed prohibition policies despite overwhelming evidence of their futility. The hemp industry's emergence from a regulatory loophole exposed the fundamental truth about cannabis prohibition, that it never reflected public demand or scientific evidence, only political convenience and corporate protections. When Americans gained legal access to cannabis products, they embraced them enthusiastically, proving that prohibition was always about control rather than safety. The absurdity is staggering. They'll eliminate regulated businesses that check IDs and pay taxes to empower criminal organizations that do neither. The hemp ban won't eliminate cannabis products. It will ensure that criminals provide them. Cannabis advocates shouldn't just oppose this reversal. They should use it as motivation to completely transform American drug policy. Half measures and incremental reforms haven't worked. It's time to elect representatives who will implement the full legalization that Americans actually want. This shitfuckery can only be undone by replacing the politicians who created it. The people have spoken through market choices and polling data, and politicians who refuse to listen should find themselves seeking new employment, because democracy demands nothing less than representatives who actually represent the people they claim to serve.
The people.
The people. Nope.
Reginald Reefer. Another banger. If you are ever in Chicago, Reginald Reefer, please reach out to weedman420chronicles@gmail.com. I would love to have you sit in the studio and smoke some weed with us and Mr. and Mrs. Weedman here. And I just want to learn and listen and have you talk. And I give you the open mic, my friend. So come into Chicago and come. I will not do a video. I don't do video podcast on the Weedman 420 Chronicles anymore. The Grow Hour I do because Big Earl lives in Michigan. It's the only way we can do it. But I do not like video podcast. Ms. Weedman knows that. But you can come to the studio and sit with us, eat some pizza on a Friday night, smoke some weed, and let's talk anytime, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So Reginald Reefer, reach out to us. Weedman420chronicles@gmail.com, buddy. International news. Ever heard of Kaizen? It's a Japanese business model focused on continuous improvement. In cannabis cultivation, applying Kaizen means tweaking light, temperature, humidity, and CO2 levels to boost plant health and cut cost. Small, consistent changes lead to big gains. So if you're looking to level up your grow game, think Kaizen. Kaizen. There's a great anime called Jujutsu Kaisen. Now I know what that meaning is, so I like it even more. Big moves in Antigua. What's that song? Bermuda, Jamaica. Ooh, I want to take you. Bermuda, Bahamas. Come on, pretty mama. Isn't Antigua in there, though, too?
Antigua.
Something like that in that song. And there you go. If you got a record for small-time cannabis possessions about to be wiped clean, the government's pushing legislation to expunge those convictions and grant pardons. Plus, if you're currently in the HAPPI program and showing real progress, you might just get full-time gig building homes for the less fortunate. Talk about a fresh start. British Columbia cannabis producers are feeling the pinch as global trade tensions hike up costs for packaging and equipment. Tariffs on Chinese imports are squeezing margins, and with prices already tight, some consumers might be tempted to return to the black market. Retail expert Rick Boanis warns margins are thin, no wiggle room for even marginal price movement. Look like the green rush just hit a speed bump. Big bust in Kenya. Shout out to Kenya, though. We love you out there. One of our top countries in the world, listening to us since the beginning. We love you, Kenya. Police intercepted a vehicle on the Marsabit Moyale Highway and seized 75 bales of cannabis sativa. The operation, part of a broader mission to curb the illegal drug trade, led to the arrest of 2 suspects in Marsabit County near the Ethiopian border. It's a hot spot for cross-border trafficking. The National Public Police Service continues its commitment to a drug-free society. Stay vigilant, folks. Man, remember what Midwest Terps told us about? He was from Kenya. And he said you can go to jail for like 20, 30 years for just having a little bit of weed on you. That's crazy. Big props to the Latino cannabis leader, Vladimir Bautista, co-founder of the Happy Monkey, who just won the 2025 Bob Fireman Award for Entrepreneurship at the Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference in Chicago. The award honors integrity, impact, and community advocacy. And Vlad dedicated it's to legacy pioneers incarcerated or deported for cannabis. He's a Harlem legacy market to license to dispensaries, though. But he is Latino, so he's blazing the trails of representing for the people. Nice for Benzinga to recognize somebody like that, right?
Yep.
Rosario Dawson.
Yes.
Boarded Kiss My Grass, doc to spotlight black women, risking all in the cannabis. Tell us about it, Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah, I
this is
thought
a good
I'd
story.
light the joint before I got started.
Yeah, light that joint.
Let me get one hit here.
Yeah, one hit and pass that. Puff, what is it? What is your line? Puff, puff, pass?
Puff, puff, pass. All right, yes. So, growing up in a multiracial family in New York City, Rosario Dawson had a unique firsthand perspective on how the smoking's coming out of my lungs. Had a unique firsthand perspective on how cannabis is used as a tool for racism. As an executive producer and the narrator of Kiss My Grass, a documentary short that premiered last week at Tribeca Film Festival, exploring the underlying roots of racial injustice and inequity in the cannabis space, the actress opened up to Deadline about how seeing the war on drugs devastate entire communities made her want to participate in the project. This is a quote from her. I grew up around a lot of potheads, including my parents. It was always a thing, she explained. My dad's a white guy, and he could grow his weed out on the fire escape. My mom was like, okay, that's crazy. You can't do that with kids. Dawson continued, but he just grew up in Texas and kind of did whatever he wanted, and he always behaved that way. And I understood, and so did my mom, and so did the rest of us in the community. That was a luxury and a privilege that he had, and that he didn't have any other personal experiences except for through his friends and family that this war on drugs had done to devastate entire communities. I think that I just read that terribly, but I think you guys catch
that weed kick in?
Yeah. Noting that her father was part indigenous, Dawson explained, he felt like it was his right. It was something natural. It was incredible being on that journey with him, from watching him when I was a kid, she added, and just feeling like he was privileged to be in California when he got cancer, being able to talk to his doctor and get off 6 different medications they wanted to put him on, that he could just use weed for his nausea, for his pain, for his sleeping, and have that conversation directly with his doctor, and to see that transformation.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. But her saying that it was because he was white.
Right.
It wouldn't have been the same instances,
I get it, but he
right?
still had
it was neat that he
had
had
the
that
conversation
ability.
with his doctor regardless, you know.
It was an equally personal experience for Mary Pryor, who co-directed the documentary, saying, we're just getting into the weeds of what it is to be marginalized triple times in this space, with chronic health items, with being Black, with being a woman, and coming from the descendants of the drug war, explained Pryor. Because my dad happened to be affected by the war on drugs, I just felt and saw inequity in a lot of different ways. Pryor wanted to uncover a deeper, uncomfortable truth about the government's mentality around cannabis and the struggles of those who are trying to right the wrongs of the war on drugs. She said, this issue is affecting everyone, and so the decision collectively as directors on this to have not just Black women say what's going on, but have white people and Latina folks from different walks of life confirm that this is not just an isolated incident. It's real, added Pryor. Meeting with other Black women in cannabis, Pryor felt a sense of trauma bonding in hearing their stories. Everyone is already dealing with the inequities of existence, and we have to grow together in order to push and lean in on the truth for the sake of getting to the other side, which is all about doing better and treating people with humanity, she said. Dawson praised the bravery and the courage of the women who shared their experiences in the documentary, as well as Pryor for continuing to educate people. It was risky, and the fact that these women were putting everything on the line and risking all of that was just so powerful to me, because ultimately, it isn't just about their individual stories, added Dawson. For so many of them, it's about lifting all those boats with that tide. And I just really, really appreciated that. Well, let's add that documentary to our list, because I think that we should watch it.
Yeah, I think so too. Great story.
Yeah.
You know, way to finish it off, Mrs. Weedman.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Weedman. I'm pretty baked.
Yeah, before we end the show, man, this has been didn't know if I was going to talk about this or not today on the show, but I felt compelled that I need to. There's a lot of shit going on, not just in this country, in the United States of America, but around the world. And it's making me sad every day to see how divided we've become as a country, but also divided around the world. It's all about sides right now. Whose side are you on? Are you on this side? Are you on that side? And I'm decided not to take a side on this one, because I think all of our governments across this world should be ashamed of themselves. And to not take care of the people that put them into government, whether you're a free, I don't even want to get into politics that way. I just want to say that I'm ashamed of our governments around the world. And I pray for humanity every day that things will get better, that we can overcome as humanity and not let the tyrannies of all these governments around the world, all of them, I'm done with all of them. There's not one that can say they're doing something better than another, because they're all sad. And they're all bringing us down as the human race. And I'm ashamed to let these control our lives anymore, because all they're doing is bringing chaos and pain and war, and who's better than one, and whose country's better than this country, and who's got bigger bombs and bigger guns and bigger tanks, and who's blowing up this country and who's blowing up that country. This is my country. This is part of my land. No, this is part of mine. In the end, we're all going to die one day, and none of it's going to matter. And all we did was worry and cry and feel pain every night when I go to bed. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of having to always think about, could this be our last day here on earth? Because you don't know what's going to happen. It just takes one. And we're killing more and more people for profits, for margins, for territory. And we're not helping people anymore. All we're doing is fighting. I felt like this 4 years ago. Same thing. And I was praying that we would never see this again. And all I'm seeing is pain and death and destruction, and it's not fair. We weren't put on this earth for this. Whatever you believe in, I don't care. Or maybe I do. But whatever you believe in, we are not put on this earth to live like this. To live in pain and agony and have to worry. And I hate worrying. I do. I try not to, right? What's my biggest thing? Don't worry. Man upstairs takes care of everything, and I'm flat. I got nothing left. And I'm sad. And all I feel like is I'm watching the news, and I hate watching the news because it's so negative, but I just see people dying, and there's no getting away from it. It's all over social media. It's all over the news. Every article, when I'm searching cannabis, the next article is what this government's doing to this country and who's bargaining who and who's. I hate to end a positive show like this, but you just all have to realize out there, I love you all, and whatever, all of our countries around the world that you listen to this show, you're going to hear this, and I love you, and you're a part of the human race, and we don't deserve this. No person in this world should go hungry. No person should go without. There's more being thrown away in a dumpster every day that person next door could use a fucking hand. And it's sad, and I'm just over it. And I got nothing left, and if we don't do something as humanity, there won't be any of us left. I'm sorry to say that. We won't make it. And we're failing what we're put on this earth to do. And that's love, peace, kindness, just being a fucking goddamn decent human being. Who put these people in charge to control our lives? It's fucking terrifying. And I'm so over it. And I hope we can all stand together as humanity and fight these governments and these tyrannies. And we don't need it with guns. We need it with our voice. And we need to stop this because it's just not healthy. I love you all out there. I really, truly do. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I want you all to be safe. I want you all to try not to think about what's going on the best way you can and go out there and enjoy life, like I say all the time. But I know it's hard for some of you. But go out there and do the best you can each every day and love one another. Stop fighting. Stop the hate. Stop the killing. I love you all. As Paulie always says, smoke smart, puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.